In 1950, the average American woman lost fewer than 50 strands of hair per day. By 2024, that number had tripled. Her name was Dorothy. She raised 4 children in a 2-bedroom house in Akron, Ohio. She never once found a clump of hair in the shower drain. In 83 years, she never had a reason to. She had never heard the word Rogaine. She had never read the words hair loss on a label. She had never stood at the mirror counting what was gone. By the time Dorothy turned 60, American women were spending $11 billion a year trying to keep the hair they were losing. Dorothy was not losing hers. She had no dermatologist appointment about thinning, no DHT blocking supplement on her nightstand, no biotin gummy in a childproof bottle, no scalp serum with 17 ingredients, no before and after photo from a clinical trial, no monthly subscription to anything that promised her follicles would survive, and no morning where she picked up what had come out overnight and felt afraid. What Dorothy had were 10 habits so ordinary she never thought to name them. Nobody else on Maple Street named them either, because everyone's hair stayed in. 10 habits. None of them cost more than 30 cents. None of them have a patent number. None of them require a dermatologist's signature. This video is about what those habits were, and why your follicles are losing what hers never did. Then something changed. Not the female follicle, not the biology of hair growth, not what a human scalp has needed for 200,000 years. What changed is exactly what this video is about. Before number 10, subscribe. This is exactly what this channel is here to make. Number 10. Tuesday morning. Dorothy's bathroom. The sink full of warm water. She washed her hair once a week, the same schedule her mother had kept, the same her grandmother had kept before that. In 1947, Procter & Gamble launched Prell shampoo with one promise: it lathers so richly you know it's working. By 1980, the average American woman was washing 3 to 4 times per week, not because her hair had gotten dirtier, because she had been sold the idea that it had. Here is what happens when you wash every day. The scalp reads the stripping as an emergency. It responds by producing more oil. The woman washes again because her hair feels oily again. The scalp produces more. The cycle tightens by the week. Dorothy's scalp never received that signal. Once a week, the water was warm, the routine was done, and the scalp was left to do what it knew how to do. She never had the daily wash habit. She never had the daily oil problem either. Number 9. Dorothy owned one heat tool, a hairdryer. It lived under the bathroom sink. She used it 4 times a year, maybe 5. The rest of the time, her hair dried in the open air, on its own schedule, without being hurried. When heat is applied to a hair shaft repeatedly, the keratin scales that lie flat along its surface begin lifting. Those scales protect everything underneath. Lifted scales cannot hold moisture. They break at the point of most stress, which is almost always the middle of the strand. You lose length you have spent months growing. Dorothy's hair had been air drying in that same bathroom since 1946. No interruption, no forced heat. The shaft closed on its own, the way it was always meant to. She never had the heat protectant spray that exists to undo what the dryer causes. She never had the problem either. Number 8. Every night before bed, Dorothy picked up her brush, natural boar bristles. The handle worn smooth from decades of use, 20 strokes, sometimes 30, starting at the scalp and moving slowly to the ends. Those bristles could do something plastic bristles cannot. They were slightly porous and slightly acidic. Each stroke picked up the oil the scalp had produced and moved it outward along the shaft, all the way to the tips. By the time Dorothy set the brush down on the nightstand, her hair had been coated in its own conditioning agent. No bottle, no mask, no product labeled overnight repair. The oil her shampoo was designed to remove was also, in Dorothy's hands, the best treatment her hair ever received. She never had the intensive conditioning product. She never had the problem either. Number 1 on this list is the habit the hair loss industry cannot patent, cannot sell, and has spent 40 years trying to make you forget. Stay with me. Number 7. Every Sunday morning before the wash, Dorothy stood at the bathroom sink, 5 minutes, both hands on her scalp, fingertip pads, not nails, small, slow circles from the hairline toward the crown. Her mother had called it simple good sense. In 2016, a Japanese study followed participants through a daily 4-minute scalp massage over 24 weeks. At the end, hair strand thickness had increased measurably in the massage group. What they were doing was increasing blood flow to the dermal papilla, the tiny structure at the base of each follicle where growth cells receive their oxygen and nutrients. Dorothy had no access to that study. She had 5 minutes and her mother's voice. She never had the derma roller. She never had the problem either. Number 6. Once a week, Dorothy reached into the bathroom cabinet and took out a small brown glass bottle. The label read, "Castor oil." It had cost her 32 cents in 1951. A later bottle cost the same. She bought the same bottle her whole life. She worked a small amount into her scalp with her fingertips, covered it with an old cotton cloth, slept, washed it out in the morning. Dermatologists now understand that scalp inflammation quietly drives hair thinning in women. Castor oil contains compounds that work against that inflammation at the follicle level. Dorothy did not know the mechanism. She knew her mother had done it, and her mother's hair had lasted. That was enough. The global hair loss treatment market reached $9.6 billion in 2024. She never had the pharmaceutical product. She never had the problem either. Number 5. Dorothy ate butter every morning. A real amount, on bread, in the pan, on the potatoes. She cooked with lard, she drank whole milk, she ate eggs 3 times a week without apologizing for any of it. The hair follicle needs fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, to keep its growth cycle working. These vitamins live in the fat of animal foods, not in a supplement capsule. Not in an enriched low-fat product, in the fat itself, which Dorothy ate every single day. In 1977, the McGovern Report told American women to reduce fat. Low-fat alternatives filled the supermarket shelves within a decade. Hair loss rates among American women began rising in the same period. Dorothy's lard tin stayed beside the stove. She never had the low-fat substitute. She never had the problem either. Number 4. After every wash, Dorothy turned the tap to cold. Not cool, cold. The coldest it would give, 30 seconds. She did it because it was how you finished. She had never been told otherwise. Cold water causes the cuticle scales of the hair shaft to contract and close. Closed scales hold moisture better, protect the structure underneath, and reduce the rush of oil production that happens in the hours immediately after washing. It is not a complex idea. The hair is a tube. Cold closes the tube. Every beauty school in America taught this as a standard finishing step in the 1950s. Basic, not optional. She never had the shine serum that simulates what cold water does for free. She never had the problem either. Number 3. Dorothy kept rosemary growing in the garden beside the back door. Every washing day, she steeped a handful in boiling water. She let it cool. She strained it. She poured it slowly over her scalp after washing and massaged it in. She left it there without rinsing. She called it a rinse. Her mother had given her the habit in the 1930s. In 2015, a study published in the journal Skin Med compared rosemary oil applied to the scalp for 6 months against 2% minoxidil, the active ingredient in Rogaine. The hair regrowth results were statistically comparable. Rogaine received FDA approval for women in 1991. Dorothy had been steeping rosemary since before she was married. She never had the pharmaceutical. She never had the problem either. Number 2. Dorothy braided her hair before bed. 2 loose braids, tied with strips of old cotton cloth. Never elastic bands. She did it to avoid waking with knots. Knots required pulling. Pulling caused breakage. The braid cut the whole sequence off before it could begin. Cotton pillowcases generate friction against the hair shaft across 8 hours of movement every night. That friction lifts the cuticle, causes mechanical breakage at the weakest points, and absorbs the sebum the shaft was retaining. By morning, the hair has lost both structure and moisture. The silk pillowcase is now worth over $400 million as a product category. It solves exactly the problem Dorothy's cloth strip solved for free. She never had the silk pillowcase. She never had the problem either. Number 1. Dorothy never believed her hair was failing. She never stood at the mirror counting strands. She never checked the drain with her heart in her throat. She never searched for explanations in the middle of the night. Sustained psychological stress raises cortisol. Elevated cortisol drives production of a hormone called DHT, which progressively shrinks the hair follicle. A shrunken follicle makes thinner strands, then shorter ones, then it stops altogether. In the 1990s, the hair loss supplement market launched its most aggressive advertising campaign ever. The message was simple: your hair is thinning and time is running out. Dorothy never received that message. Her follicles never got the cortisol that follows it. Dorothy passed away in 2002. She was 83 years old. Her daughter brushed her mother's hair the week before she died. She said afterward that it was still thick, still all there, a little coarser with age, still entirely hers. The 10 habits Dorothy kept were not a regimen. They were Tuesday. They were the bathroom cabinet under the sink, and the rosemary bush by the back door, and the cold water and the old cloth tied in 2 loose braids. What changed between Dorothy's bathroom and yours was not what the follicle needs to grow. Those requirements have not changed since 1958. What changed was who got paid when those requirements were replaced with something that could be bottled, patented, and shipped to your door on the 1st of every month. Pick one thing from this list. Come back in the comments in a week and tell me what it did.